Continue that breaking news out of the NFL with the Chargers saying bye-bye and firing their head coach Brandon Staley and general manager Tom Telesco this morning. That move comes after that 63-21 stomp they took from the Vegas Raiders yesterday. The loss dropped them to 5-9 in the AFC West, and dead last. Haven't been good at all this year. Staley finishes his mark in L.A. with a 24-24 record overall. And you talk about some of those hiccups he's had along the way. You could talk about that first round last year we saw in the postseason, but that is not the only one on his slate here. You see it in 2022. I mentioned that Jags game. Then in 21, the 35-32 loss at Vegas in Week 18 when they had a chance to clinch a playoff spot. That didn't happen. Then last night, maybe the final nail for that front office out there for the Chargers. I want to bring in our Pete Prisco. And Pete, your first reaction to this? I mean, I guess you could say last night we knew this would happen, but maybe not too soon. Your thoughts?
I mean, it probably didn't happen soon enough. They probably should have fired him after last season. Remember when he burst onto the scene and everybody, oh, look, he plays the game like we used to play in Madden. He goes for it all the time. This guy's innovative. He's creative. He wasn't a good football coach, period. End of story. He blew a lot of games, and the roster, quite frankly, wasn't nearly as good as it was portrayed as being, which is why Telesco got it. This is also Telesco's third head coach. You don't get that many when you're a general manager. He had 10 years. So this is a complete rebuild. But again, there should be a lesson here. Sometimes you got to slow the roll a little bit on these young coaches. You know, everybody wants to rush these guys and see what they've done. He was a defensive coordinator at John Carroll University, I think, like 8 years ago. That's a quick ascension to the top spot for an organization, and I think you have to be real careful with that in the NFL.
You talking about the top spot? There was a guy that's been around for a long time, and it was top of the class. When you talk about coaches, I mean, could this be a spot for a Bill Belichick? I just got to throw it out there, Pete.
Well, I mean, it's going to be an attractive spot for anybody because of the quarterback position. You look at that quarterback, you have Justin Herbert. He's been an underachiever in large part because the defense has been awful around them. They don't have great speed on the outside. They've had a ton of injuries at wide receiver, and he hasn't lived up to the expectations because of all that. So, yeah, it's an attractive job. I think there's going to be a long list of guys. But, again, if you hire Belichick or go make the deal to go get Belichick, you're going to have to give up draft picks probably, unless he gets fired, which I'm not sure that's going to happen. If you're the Patriots, why would you fire him when you might get some draft picks for him? And here's the other thing. Is he going to want personnel control? Bill Belichick, the general manager, is the reason Bill Belichick, the head coach, is struggling in New England. You can't allow him to have personnel control. If I'm building my organization right now from the top down, here's how I build it. Executive VP, he handles all the crap that players have to deal with in travel and somebody gets in trouble. And you allow the general manager to be the football guy, and he makes the football decisions, not the head coach. The general manager does. Sure, the coach will have input, but it's the GM who makes those decisions, but he doesn't have to deal with the day-to-day crap that these GMs sometimes have to deal with. And then, what kind of head coach do you want? I want a leader of men. It doesn't have to be on one side of the ball or the other. He can be just a guy that's going to delegate to as a coaches, but make sure you hire good assistant coaches. Make sure you hire good assistant coordinators. So I think that's the key to building an organization. It's not the hot name. We've seen that play out many a time. It doesn't work.
Pete, how attractive is his job here? Because, you know, they are in the AFC West. You got to deal with Patrick Mahomes twice a year and also the conference as well. If you're the next guy looking for maybe the Chargers job or the Panthers job or maybe Vegas, is this maybe the top of the list for some guys?
No question about it. There's only so many people on the planet Earth that can throw the football the way Justin Herbert does. And this is a quarterback league. He's a star player. You get the right offensive system around him. You get the right players around him. I think he's going to be one of those guys that takes the quick jump to elite status. It's just that they haven't made it work. The offense in the first couple years with Herbert was very primitive, and they didn't drive the ball down the field. Then you go get Kellen Moore, and you have all these injuries, and it just doesn't look right. So maybe Kellen Moore wasn't the answer in Dallas, wasn't the answer anywhere, because look what the Cowboys have done without him. So, yes, I do think this is an attractive job. It will be the most attractive job because of Justin Herbert.
Is it possible that we can see this franchise turn around maybe next year, 2 years? How long do you think it would get the Chargers in that conversation as a contender, depending on, of course, the coach and front office?
Well, you have that quarterback so they can be right in the mix again next year. The problem is, and we're all guilty of this, we kind of overvalued their roster. You look at it, Derwin James hasn't played like an all-pro safety. He's not even close to it. So when we grade the roster, we say, okay, he's great. He's not. Joey Bosa in and out of the lineup. He hasn't been healthy, so he's not great. So you look at it, the left tackle, Slater's a good player, hadn't played up to expectations. They lost their center. Keenan Allen's old, can't run that well. Mike Williams is always hurt. Eckler is a free agent. I mean, the roster isn't great, which is why Telesco probably got it, but you do have the quarterback, and that's a great thing to build around.
He is Pete Prisco. Join us here on that breaking news. Brandon Staley out as the head coach with the Chargers. They appreciate it, Pete, as always. Want to take a look at it when we're talking about the Chargers and those preseason totals. Let's just say over the years, it's been bad. If you were a betting man and you had no faith in the Chargers, you've been living good. Under since 2019, and they will not be getting close to that 9.5 here in 2023. So that has been the case a few of those years for Brandon Staley. And we'll see what happens in the future with Charge On out there in LA.